strap yourself in for Keeping It Real with Jack and Ral.
Welcome back to Keeping It Real with Jack and Ral. And today's episode is a beauty. It's called Claiming Your Genius. And speaking of genius, hello, Ral.
That's funny. It is claiming your genius. I remember coming across this concept
Claiming your
genius about 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was at a conference and there was a whole heap of speakers, and one of the speakers was Natasha Pincus.
Who's she?
Well, I was going to say you probably don't know her, but she did. Do you know Goitier?
Yes.
You know somebody I used to know?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a really good song.
It is a good
anyway,
song.
she produced the video clip. You remember? If you can remember it, they were sort of covered and it was like painting. He was singing, but
very clever.
His face was being painted. Very
yes.
clever.
Very clever. He's a Melbourne boy, by the way.
Oh, there you go. Melbourne boy, didn't know that.
Born in Brussels, but moved to Montmorency in Victoria.
Oh, almost
That's a
neighbours.
stupid fact.
Fun fact. Not a stupid fact, just a fun fact.
A fun fact.
I went on a walking trek a few years ago and met this woman, and I know she listens to my podcast, so hi Sandra. And she's like the queen of fun facts.
And so she has all sorts of just
Fun
random.
facts. In the end, I just studied. Okay, I just annoy her. I said, first of all, they're not fun, and are they really facts?
Oh, you're a pain. Anyway, back to claiming your genius.
Back to claiming your genius. So she would have so many people after this video clip, and it was like at the time it was one of the most viewed videos of all time. She won all these awards, and she would have people come up and say, "You're a genius." And her initial thing was, well, no, I'm not a genius. I just produced this video clip, which she'd probably done a lot before.
Which makes me wonder, what did they mean then by genius?
So she wrote a book. So when she was talking, in her book, it's just this cool little book.
Cute, green.
And it's
your
called
collar.
I Am Not a Genius and So Are You. Right? So what?
That's clever.
The opening story in the book is, say if you were sitting at home and someone came up and knocked on the door to say you're a genius, you would go, no, I'm not a genius. And it was almost like that's never going to happen. But what if it did happen? What if someone came and literally gave you the title of genius? And what I love about what she means by that, so
what's the
her
point
whole
here?
concept of what if you were a genius? What if you thought, okay, so if someone came up and said you are officially a genius,
what is a genius? Should I mean,
there's different versions, I guess. But what she's saying is, and she said you'd be more reluctant to self-censor.
Correct.
Right? Because you're going, well, I'm a genius. You'd be more confident to speak up.
True.
You'd be more confident to act.
True.
You would demand more from others and from yourself.
True.
And then she said, no longer would you use the cursed phrase, that'll do. You would dare more, believe more, risk more, and commit more.
More.
Your work would be bolder and braver. So she was saying, if you embrace this concept that I am a genius, you would do braver, bolder, make decisions, act.
What is her definition of genius, Raul? Because I know that there are some different
Yes. So there's different
right?
definitions of it. I'm not even sure if she gives the definition of a genius, but she's just almost like genius is a label. And it's a label. And she says, so this is where I sort of differ with her on this because beg to differ. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. And it's a label you can give yourself. So I sometimes go, like people go, if you're a thought leader, you can't give yourself the name of the thought leader. Other people have to.
Yeah.
You can't even say I'm good looking. Like other people determine if you're good looking. But I know that doesn't stop you. But it's true, you know what I mean?
No one's ugly after 2 a.m., just saying.
What she's saying though, if you accept that you've got genius inside of you. Now this is where I want to get to the definition. Because
I like it. I like it.
I actually did this
Self-talk.
after reading this book. I actually did quite a lot of research into the concept of genius.
Yeah.
And the Romans believed that the genius lived in each of us. So it's not as if you are the genius, but you have the genius idea. And I think the Greeks had the same idea. The Greeks called them daemons or something, but the Romans called them genius. But genius wasn't like a super smart person.
No.
It was almost this conduit between the gods and the human.
So while you've been saying that, because I kept thinking there's more to this, right?
Yeah.
Which is really cool. So I just looked up, genius comes from the Latin word of the same name, meaning guardian deity or spirit, which watches over each person from birth, or innate ability. So it's nothing to do with academia. So, which is really interesting. Yet the Oxford Dictionary, which is why so many people would say, well, I'm not a genius. The Oxford Dictionary says, a genius is a person of consummate intellectual power.
Yes.
What if it's about creativity? What if it's about other things?
So I remember reading Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love.
I couldn't stand that movie, and Julia Roberts. Anyway, but I the concept I get, it just gave me the shits. It was a bit pathetic.
Well, she was a writer and she just wrote a memoir that just
I quite like Elizabeth Gilbert. She's quite clever, but yeah.
I think it was her next book, but anyway, another book she wrote was Big Magic.
Yes.
And it was around, it's almost playing with creativity and fear. Like holding them.
Yeah, what holds you back?
Hold them together, right? But in Big Magic, she talks about to these Greeks and Romans and the idea of genius, meaning that it was it came through the person. And she spoke it from like an artist's perspective. So whether it was a writer or a poet or an actor or someone coming up with ideas, that the old Greek and Roman term was that everyone had this genius inside them, which meant if you came up with a really brilliant idea, you couldn't take full credit for it because it was the genius inside of you coming through you. It's
so that would balance and manage your ego,
exactly.
right?
So it's not like you can't take full credit, but you also can't you can't be blamed because. And she's saying if we embrace that idea of genius, we would be more creative. So creatives would get out of their own way because it's just not about me, because it's me as the writer or the poet is only one part of the equation.
This genius lives within me and I'm actually just the vessel that allows that to come out.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. And I'm just imagining a lot of the people that I coach, they do have imposter syndrome. They are so humble. I'm not good enough. I don't think I'm that great. What if they thought of themselves as a genius, but it is the genius that lives within them, and that they should not be fearful of trying things, of putting themselves forward, because it's actually not them, it's something within them.
Something within, yeah.
I like
there
that.
was Elizabeth Gilbert, in the book Big Magic, she talks about where she interviewed a poet. Now, I forget the poet's name.
Yeah.
But the poet would say she would have like a physical reaction when she heard a poem coming to her. And so she would be out walking or whatever, and she could feel, like the poet was saying, it was like thunder coming towards me. And whenever she started to censor it, the first thing was run to get home, to get a paper and pen.
To write it
out. And she shares this story, it sort of sounds unbelievable, but she would literally get in and get the paper and just let the poem come through her and write it out, and that would be the poem.
Amazing.
Sometimes she said if she was too late, like if she couldn't it was gone. And she said one story, and again, this is where it sounds really unbelievable, that she got in and she got a pen, but didn't have a bit of paper, and she literally said to this feeling, "Don't go yet," and started pulling it back into her body.
Oh, my God.
And so she wrote it out and wrote the poem out, and it was backwards.
Oh,
because
wow.
It was like, oh, my God, I don't know, like that's like spirit
That's
stuff.
very spiritual.
But Elizabeth Gilbert talks about this, and once she embraced it, like when she's having writer's block, for example, she said she will physically call out to the genius.
Yes. Help me. Right.
I am here. And if you want this book to be written, you have to turn up for me. I'm going to be here, and I want it noted that I'm working hard and I'm sitting in my ass trying to do this. But if you don't help me,
I can't get it done.
It won't happen. And I think that's really cool as well.
That is very cool, very cool. So there's a couple of things here, okay? And we started with Goethe. I can never say his name. We've now come round to this whole claiming your genius because we've established and identified the actual definition of genius before the English got hold of it and buggered it up.
Yeah.
The Greeks and the Romans said it's actually
within us.
This creativity power that sits within us.
Yeah.
You've gone on to say, via Natasha Pincus, that in actual fact that we've all got genius and we need to claim it, and it does sit within us, and our bodies are just the vessel by which we carry that. So start claiming your genius. Yeah. It's really interesting because surely people hold themselves back, right? So imposter syndrome is an example, fear, what will people think of me? So, judgment. So therefore we don't tend to claim our genius. How do we deal with that?
Yeah, we spoke a lot about fear, like we let fear get in the way, and imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome's another
is
one.
like a fear. It was like,
it is.
What if it doesn't?
It holds
happen?
you back.
Elizabeth, I remember. I can't remember what episode was, but I briefly mentioned something about fear, and it was in the driver's seat, and I think I attributed it to Elizabeth Gilbert, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, that rings
anyway,
a bell.
when I was researching and rereading Big Magic again for this episode. It was Elizabeth Gilbert, but she did more than just talk about fear in the backseat. She actually wrote a letter to fear.
Oh, I love that.
Would you?
Before I definitely want you to read me this letter. I know it's going to be good. That is an awesome tip, and we'll come back to also how you can lean into fear or lean into imposter syndrome is writing yourself a letter. Read the letter.
Okay, all right. So this is what Elizabeth Gilbert wrote to fear. So she starts with, "Dearest Fear, creativity and I are about to go on a road trip together." So she sort of talks about, she does this like when she's writing a new book or whatever, right? "I understand you'll be joining us because you always do. I acknowledge that you believe you have an important job to do in my life and that you take your job seriously."
This is fear.
"Apparently your job, Fear, is to induce complete panic whenever I'm about to do anything interesting. And may I say, you are superb at your job."
Good.
"So by all means, keep doing your job if you feel you must. But I will also be doing my job on this road trip, which is work hard and stay focused. And creativity will be doing its job, which is to remain stimulating and inspiring. There's plenty of room in this vehicle for all of us, so make yourself at home.
Oh, I like that.
But understand this." This is the bit I love, right? "But understand this. Creativity and I are the only ones who will be making any decisions along the way.
Claim it, baby.
I recognise and respect that you are part of this family and so will never exclude you from our activities, but still your suggestions will never be followed. You're allowed to have a seat, you're allowed to have a voice, but you are not allowed to have a vote. You are not allowed to touch the road maps. You're not allowed to suggest detours. You're not allowed to fiddle with the temperature. Dude, you're not even allowed to touch the radio. But above all else, my dear old familiar friend,
Fear,
you are absolutely forbidden to drive."
that is awesome.
So what I love about that.
That is awesome.
I know, and I was going to try to reduce it, but I think it's so powerful that we read read it
Brilliant.
all.
You read it well too.
It's acknowledging that fear is there.
It exists.
And it will have a voice, but don't let it have a vote.
No.
And absolutely do not let it drive anything you're doing.
But we need to reframe this thing, fear, like imposter syndrome, and say it actually helps. Because if you're not a little bit scared, if you're not a little bit fearful, then you're not putting yourself out there. You're not getting out of your comfort zone, which means you're unlikely to get really creative.
Yeah. Or you perhaps maybe don't care.
Or you don't care enough. That's right.
People that, don't have any fear. I don't care how it goes.
I love that. Dude, you're not allowed to drive.
Dude, you are absolutely forbidden to drive.
I wonder if she's making fear a boy. Dude.
Hey, dude. I know the
But
Americans.
that is so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just go back. Let's just unpack this a bit because it's a bit deep, this one.
Yeah, it is
this
a bit
episode,
deep.
But it's a good episode. Claiming your genius. Everyone has genius, yeah? And the Oxford Dictionary genius definition is about academia and intellectual, brilliance.
Which I don't think is useful in this.
Which is actually not accurate. I like the Romans and the Greeks, which say it's actually about creativity and it lives within us.
Yeah.
So claim that genius.
Yeah.
Lean into that genius and let that genius be unleashed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even better.
Because and that's what, back to Natasha Pincus when she said it's a label you can give yourself. It's about that. It's claiming it. And it's not about, being a wanker and being egotistical, but it's just saying if you accept the Greek and Roman term that we all have genius inside us, it's almost like, well, if you don't claim that and if you don't let it come through and if you don't let it come out, well, that's not nice.
Well, it's just a waste of your potential, quite frankly, and it's a waste of the genius who wants to come out. You've been good at this, Raal. You really have, and it's without being a wanker and it's without being egotistical. You're certainly probably a role model for this, particularly for women. When we were at Harvard and we were in the lecture, you need to tell the story because I'm going to forget it, and we named you genius and you claimed it and absolutely continued to remind us. And to this day, how long ago were we at Harvard?
That was 8 years ago.
8 years ago.
Yeah.
Our WhatsApp group of women that we met all around the world that we connect with every now and again still refer to you as genius.
Yeah.
You claimed it. Yeah. Tell us the story.
So, we did share this story I think on the labels we give ourselves or whatever, but we were at Harvard, we were doing this activity with a whole heap of questions and then, we had to go through the questions and get the answers. And I got one of these questions right and the lecturer goes, "Oh my God, no one ever gets that right. How did you get it right?" And as a little joke, I said, "Because I'm a genius." And remember, everyone just cracked up laughing, and she's giving me high fives. Like I'm in Harvard getting high fives from the lecturer. And then the next morning,
you walk in,
everyone's going, "Genius, genius, high fives." And to this day, so when I was one of the speaking gigs I did in Arizona last month was because of one of our friends at Harvard who introduced me, and she sent me an email the night before going, "Hey, gorgeous genius."
Oh, you got gorgeous in there as well.
I got gorgeous. And then I sign off GG, gorgeous genius. She was asking me about it, but it is stuck.
So the stories we tell ourselves, we've got to bring this back because this is what it's about, keepers, okay? Yeah. So believe you have genius within you. Believe you should claim that genius. Don't assume that you aren't or can't be a genius. It's the stories and the labels that we give ourselves. Yeah. Lean into it.
Yeah. And again, you said it's not about being a wanker or whatever.
No.
It's about claiming it, but in a fun way. Because
in a humble way.
You know what we're very good at? We're very good at going, "God, that was a crap idea. God, I was stupid."
Yeah.
Well, why don't we go, "Actually, that was a bloody genius idea.
And gee, I'm a genius.
Yeah, I'm a genius.
Absolutely.
Have you seen Ice Age? Did you watch the movie Ice Age?
Yeah, the kids used to love it. Years ago.
Keelan's laughing. Did you used to watch Ice Age? Yeah.
I think he still does.
He still does.
He is only 12, remember?
I think there was about 4 of them. But you know Sid the Sloth?
Sid the Sloth, right. My favourite.
So I forget which Ice Age movie it was, but he was trying to create fire. He was trying to create fire. So all through the movie, he's trying to rub rocks together and trying to get sparks happening, and he's trying to create fire. And it was right at the end they got stuck in this cave. And they were just entertaining themselves by drawing on the cave. Yeah. And is it Maddie the elephant?
Yeah.
Maddie, Keelan knows. You said that way too quickly. Manny the elephant drew a Sid the Sloth, but like a really big fat Sid the Sloth. And Sid gets very funny and he's just like rubbing it out with a rock.
Really hard.
And there's a bit of dry tinder next to it and the spark goes and fire goes and he goes, "I'm a genius."
I'm a genius.
So you got to do it. Like when you do say I'm a genius or acknowledge you're a genius, just do it in the little bit of a Sid the Sloth. I'm a genius. And, so you won't feel like a wanker. But you got to acknowledge it.
Acknowledge it. Claim it.
Yeah.
Do more than acknowledge it. Claim it. Okay, so we've heard it's there. We've all got it. We've all got potential, no question at all. It's a matter of unlocking that potential. So what are some tips and techniques to claiming your genius?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things is it's just what we spoke about. It's like get out of your own way. If you acknowledge that the genius isn't you as the person, but there's something inside of you, then let it work through it. Let it go. And so it's literally claiming it.
I love it.
Claiming it. Owning it.
Owning it.
Yeah.
Owning it. And particularly for women who tend to be incredibly humble and will never big note or say that there's something that they're not, start to say, well, okay, it's not me. It's this inner genius that I just happen to be the vessel
Yeah,
that it's
you're the
in.
vessel. You know what? Here's a little tip you could do, a little technique. When someone gives you a compliment to go, oh, that was a really good idea, just go, I know, it was quite genius, wasn't it?
Oh, I love that.
And so again, it's not saying I'm a genius. It was quite a genius idea.
It was quite genius.
It's a genius idea.
And the genius within me came up with it.
You say that. Like literally, I challenge anyone, say that 3 times over the next month and you'd be surprised where people start calling you genius.
Say it again, please.
Literally go, when someone go, that was a great idea, you did or whatever, you go, yes, I know, it was a genius idea, wasn't it?
Love it. And I love the fact you're asking them to validate
it's just
what you've just said.
it. It's
so
like,
good.
It's like going,
good.
no, whatever, blah,
So
blah,
good.
blah. You know when someone gives me a compliment, they go, I really like your jacket or I really like your shoes.
It's a nice jacket.
And you go, yeah, they're a cool jacket, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you're not going, I didn't make the jacket.
No.
I didn't make the shoes. I don't have to go, oh, no, it's just.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
I know.
right. Well, I always start with thank you.
Yes.
I accept and acknowledge but then we'll say, yeah, it is cool. Yeah, I really like it.
Have we done a podcast session on compliments, accepting compliments?
Not yet. It's coming.
We've got to do that one.
Genius.
That's a genius idea. See? Genius idea.
Hey, we were getting to tips and techniques, but it did just dawn on me there's another genius in our orbit.
Who's that?
His name's Liam.
All right. Keelan thought I was going to talk about him then.
Keelan's a genius too.
Keelan just went, oh, bloody Liam.
Keelan's our junior genius.
Yeah.
Liam's our senior genius.
Yeah.
So Liam Anderson is the winemaker at Wild Duck Creek Estate, one of our partners.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what's a genius about Wild Duck Creek Estate as a brand. They don't do any marketing.
Oh, no. That's
Okay, so word of mouth.
a genius idea.
30 years this business has been going. You won't see advertising. You don't see them sold in Dan Murphy's. You don't see them sold in a lot of liquor stores. In some, they also mail out and deliver a lot of their wine. But the fact that they are doing marketing in a creative way, e.g. aligning with people like us because we're authentic and we keep it real and they like that as a brand value, says to me they're genius.
Yeah, that is genius, and it's word of mouth. And
is.
it's word of mouth on steroids with us.
Absolutely.
Not just because we've got big mouths,
we do a lot of talking.
but we're reaching a lot of people. Okay, so
Let's go back to tips
let's go
and
back. So
techniques.
owning the genius inside of you and owning that it's almost like it's about creativity.
Yeah.
And get out of your own way.
Get out of your own way. Accept it. Acknowledge it. Be grateful for it.
Yeah.
And know that it exists and it's there. Unleash it.
Yeah.
So how do you unleash it?
And also accept that fear's there.
Yeah.
Acknowledge fear. Yeah. But as Elizabeth Gilbert says, never, ever, ever let it drive.
So imposter syndrome, which is also like a fear.
Yep.
I coach on this all of the time. There's always, there's the yin and the yang, right? There's the good and the bad. Imposter thoughts make you more other-oriented, more attuned to other people's perceptions and feelings, which makes you more self-aware and more likeable.
Yeah.
So there's a good to having imposter syndrome and there is a good to having fear in our lives. As I said before, it'll actually push you out of your comfort zone.
Yep.
If you're not fearful, you're not growing. We said in one of our earlier episodes about learning, if you're not learning, you're dying. Well, actually.
You're like a shark.
Sid the Sloth, the shark. I love it.
I do. You can learn from anywhere.
I tell you what we haven't had from you for a while is a joke.
No, I haven't got a joke. I think I'll
Thought
have
you were
to
a
think of
genius.
some. Yeah.
Back to
You
tips and techniques.
Can't throw me on the spot. All
No,
right,
that's
tips and
true.
techniques. This is about acknowledge it's around creativity.
Forget academia. Intellectual.
Acknowledge fear is there, but don't let it take the driver's seat.
Love that.
And just own your genius and use it, and acknowledge it because we're very good at acknowledging when we have bad ideas.
Yeah.
Not so great when they're geniuses' ideas.
And genius is about creativity. And that doesn't mean to say you have to be a great artist, right? It is about problem solving.
Yeah.
It's about idea innovation, coming up with a great idea. And it might be a simple little idea.
Could be making fried rice with what's in the fridge.
Could
be
be
that's a genius.
Could be your superpower, being able to boil an egg perfectly.
I can poach
Poach.
and boil.
Okay, claim it.
All right, I'm claiming it. Okay, keepers, as usual, I hope you have found this of value. If you have, share it.
Please.
If you give us a 5-star review, we'd be very grateful.
Buy some wine.
Buy some wine, and we'll speak to you next time.
Bye.
You've been listening to another episode of Keeping It Real with Jack and Rahl. If you like what you've heard, Don't forget to tell others about it and give a 5-star review. They may seem confident, but they really are sensitive 5-star needy souls. Yeah, right. Keeping It Real, created by Jack Phillips and Gabriel Dolan. Produced by Keelan Ferrari Brown. And this really real voiceover, spoken by Richard Phillips.